There was a time when evil did not exist anywhere in creation, not a single trace of it, not even a shadow of the idea. No liar walked among the stars yet. No voice had ever spoken a false word. Long before a garden, long before a hiss in the grass, there was only light, pure, uncontested, eternal. And within that light stood one being unlike any other, radiant beyond description, the finest work of God's hands. This was before the earth had a shape, before time had a first hour, when heaven alone existed, a realm where nothing was broken, where every voice sang in agreement, and no shadow had ever fallen. A prophet named Isaiah was permitted to glimpse it, a throne so vast, so high, that the mere hem of God's robe filled an entire temple. He fell to his knees, not from fear alone, but because there was nothing else a man could do in the face of that much glory. Around the throne, burning beings called seraphim hid their faces even from that light, too holy to look upon directly. Every creature in that place existed for one purpose: to pour out praise endlessly, without weariness, without end. Golden halls stretched farther than sight could follow, filled with countless beings moving in perfect order. And in the middle of that multitude, one figure was unmistakable, set apart, honored above the rest. They called him the Light Bearer, a name that meant he carried brightness the way the morning carries the sun. No other angel had been given what he had been given. No other stood where he stood. He was called the Son of the Morning, the first gleam before the dawn breaks fully over the world. He had even walked in a garden not yet touched by human feet, a paradise prepared before Adam ever drew breath. He stood on holy ground, reserved for him alone, among stones that burned like fire but did not consume. His very garments told the story of his worth: carnelian, topaz, emerald, sapphire, 9 stones, each set in gold, each a gift he did not earn. He had not one flaw, not one imperfection. Beauty had been built into the architecture of who he was. Every angel who saw him understood immediately. This one was different. This one had been given more. He did not just look magnificent, he spoke with a mind sharper than any other created thing, and heaven listened when he spoke. He had been appointed to guard something sacred, trusted with a role no other being had been given. For a time, how long, no one can say, there was not a single mark against him. He was without fault. He raised his own voice with the rest of heaven, adding his song to the great chorus that surrounded the throne, leading rather than merely following the sound of worship. But somewhere in the silence after the singing stopped, something began to stir that had never stirred in him before. He turned his attention somewhere it had never gone, not toward the throne, toward himself. And what he saw there captivated him more than anything he had ever beheld, including the one who made him. A single thought took root, small as a seed: I am remarkable, and it did not stay small for long. Slowly, the thought became a conviction. The gift began to feel like something he owned rather than something he'd received. He began to walk through heaven's halls, turning the thought over, letting it grow louder in his mind. Then came the words no created being had ever dared to think: I will rise higher. I will take what is not mine. He set his sight above every other being in creation, determined to climb past the position he'd been given. He stood in the shadow of the very throne he once worshipped at, and for the first time, he wanted it for himself. He had stopped worshipping God. Now he worshipped his own reflection and called it ambition instead of sin. He did not attack heaven with force. He attacked it with conversation, quiet words dropped into willing ears. Some angels leaned in, some hesitated, but enough of them believed him to make his plan possible. For the first time since creation began, Heaven split into two camps, those still facing the throne and those now facing him. An enormous number joined his cause, described in scripture as a third of all the stars falling together. He no longer looked like the being who once led worship. Something in him had already begun to change shape. Opposing him stood another commander entirely, one who had never once doubted where loyalty belonged. His name itself was a rebuke to the rebellion, a question with only one true answer. The two forces stood facing one another, and heaven itself seemed to hold its breath. What followed was not a battle of weapons, but a battle of allegiance, light against the claim of self. And light did what light always does in the presence of darkness. It did not fight for territory, it simply remained, and darkness could not stay. There was no contest of strength. There was only a place that could no longer hold what he had become. He was removed, not thrown by a weapon, but cast out by the very holiness he could no longer bear to stand near. Someone would later describe watching it happen: a flash, gone in an instant, impossible to look away from. What landed was not what had ascended. The brightness had gone out of him, replaced by something colder. He rose again, not in heaven this time, but as ruler of a much smaller, much darker kingdom. And ever since, his gaze has stayed fixed on one thing, what he can never have back, and who might be persuaded to lose it too. So when a new paradise was planted, and new creatures walked innocently among its trees, he was already watching. He did not come with wings or fire. He came disguised, patient, and quiet. He asked a simple question, and a simple question was all it took to begin the story again.